On a packed Friday night at Harborside Tavern, a tired, broke-looking man in a worn-out jacket walks in and quietly slides onto a bar stool, ignored by most, dismissed by some, and judged instantly by the manager who wants him gone. He orders nothing but a glass of water and a small plate of fries. The staff barely glance at him, except one waitress, Sarah, who sees something in his exhausted eyes that no one else bothers to notice. But the moment she chooses kindness over profit, the entire restaurant is thrown into a chain reaction that no one sees coming. Her small act of humanity exposes years of hidden theft, topples a toxic manager, transforms an entire workplace, and leaves one man who isn't who he appears to be completely speechless. Because the broke customer at table 7 is actually the millionaire owner in disguise. And what he's about to uncover will change every life in that restaurant forever. Alexander Brooks had spent years building an empire his father never lived long enough to see. What began as a tiny Boston tavern, warm lights, wooden bar tops, and the smell of old whiskey soaked into the walls had slowly transformed into a chain of upscale, harborside restaurants spread across the East Coast. Investors loved him. Magazines praised him. Numbers impressed everyone. But somewhere along the way, all the meetings, expansions, and business trips pulled him further and further, away from the heartbeat of the one place that started it all, his father's original tavern. For months, he hadn't even stepped inside it. He trusted his staff, trusted his managers, trusted the glossy performance reports that landed in his inbox every week. Everything looked perfect. Profits up. Labor stable. Customer satisfaction strong. On paper, Derek Torres, the floor manager, was a star. And yet, something felt off. Too many servers quitting. Too many vague exit interviews. Too many inconsistencies in the nightly numbers brushed off as rounding. Errors. Then the anonymous email arrived. No greeting. No signature. Just one line. Someone is stealing from the staff. Look at Derek. Attached were screenshots of tip discrepancies and a list of nights where cash totals didn't match server logs. Alexander's stomach turned. He ordered a private audit, reviewed security footage, and dug through year-end summaries. The deeper he went, the more impossible the truth became to ignore. Derek wasn't just skimming, he was stealing thousands directly from the staff tip pool. But numbers weren't enough. Reports weren't enough. If he wanted the real story, if he wanted to feel what his staff felt, he had to walk through those doors the way any unseen customer would. And so, on a busy Friday night, Alex put on his late father's old jacket, dusted boots, and stepped into his own restaurant completely unrecognized. The tavern was louder than Alex remembered laughter, mixing with clinking glasses. Servers weaving through tables with trays held high, and the sharp bark of orders coming from the bar. But what struck him most wasn't the noise. It was the atmosphere. His father's tavern had once felt warm, grounded, alive with familiarity. Tonight, it felt tense, mechanical, like everyone was moving just a little too fast, pushing just a little too hard, trying not to get noticed by the wrong person. And that wrong person was easy to spot. Derek Torres stood near. The host stand with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. Tall, clean-cut, tapping a pen against the counter like he owned the place. He was laughing with a small group of servers. But it wasn't friendly laughter. It was the type where everyone else laughed because they felt they had to. The kind that made people keep their shoulders tight and their eyes low. Alex took a slow breath and stepped up to the bar. Head down, posture slouched. He wanted to be invisible. Tonight, invisibility was information. Can I get a water?" he asked softly. The bartender glanced at his jacket, his boots, his unshaven face, then looked past him as if he weren't there. "Sure," he muttered, setting down a glass without even making eye contact. Alex didn't mind. It wasn't the bartender he was here for. Moments later, Derek approached with a thinned-out smile of a man who judged before he spoke. "Sir, this isn't a shelter," he said quietly, trying to keep his tone polite for the surrounding customers but failing. "If you're not ordering a proper meal, I'll need the seat." Before Alex could respond, a voice spoke up from behind Derek. "Hey, he's a customer," he ordered. "He can stay." Sarah Mitchell, a waitress carrying 2 plates and an exhaustion that couldn't hide the kindness in her voice. Her brown hair was tied up in a messy bun, her apron slightly wrinkled, and her sneakers worn from double shifts. But her eyes softened when she looked at Alex. Like she recognized the weight he carried, Derek turned toward her with irritation. "He's taking a prime bar seat, Sarah. Friday night? He's got water and fries. So, he paid for fries," she said, shifting the plates on her arm. "That makes him a guest." Derek clenched his jaw. Alex watched the exchange quietly, noting the fear in Sarah's posture. She wasn't brave because she wasn't scared. She was brave despite being scared. She walked over to Alex, placed the fries in front of him, and leaned in gently. "Don't worry about him," she whispered. "Just let me know if you need anything." Her kindness hit Alex harder than he expected. Throughout the night, he watched her hustle from one table to the next. She never rushed customers, never cut corners, never let frustration slip. Even when Derek quietly reprimanded her for wasting time on a family asking about allergens. She apologized and kept working. Then something happened that made Alex's chest tighten. A plate of perfectly good burgers and fries sat in the window and ordered the customers canceled after it was already made. Sarah looked at it, then at Alex, then back at the food. She hesitated for only a second. She slid the plate off the counter, added a dessert cup, and walked toward him. "This shouldn't go to waste," she said, placing the full meal in front of him. "Everyone who walks in here deserves to eat something decent." Alex stared at the steaming burger, the extra fries, the dessert. I didn't order this," he said quietly. "I know," she whispered. "It's on me. Just enjoy it." Across the room, Derek's eyes narrowed. He'd seen it, and Alex watched as Sarah braced herself for whatever was coming next. Derek didn't explode right away. That was the thing about him, his cruelty was never loud at first. It simmered, calculated, waiting for the exact moment when it would sting the most. He watched Sarah from across the room, eyes sharp, smile thin. Hands clasped behind his back, like a man preparing to deliver a warning, dressed as professionalism. Alex could feel the tension twisting through the air long before. Derek finally made his move. It happened the moment the dinner rush hit its peak. Orders piled up. The bartenders were slammed, and servers rushed past each other in a frantic dance of trays, receipts, and half-finished drink tickets. In the middle of that chaos, Derek called out sharply, "Sarah, my office." Now, her shoulders tightened, but she didn't protest. She placed a tray on the counter, whispered an apology to her table, and followed him toward the back. Alex watched her walk away, her steps slow and heavy, as if she already knew the punishment waiting for her. He knew he shouldn't follow. He knew he should stay in character, silent, unnoticed, observing. But something about the way Sarah moved made his chest ache. He waited a few seconds, then drifted closer to the corner by the hallway where the office was located. From there, he could hear everything inside the cramped office. Derek's voice was low but sharp. "Do you think I'm stupid, Sarah?" "No," she answered softly. "Then why are you comping food without authorization?" "It was going to be thrown out," she said. And he looked hungry. It was theft. The word hit the air like ice water. Sarah's breath hitched. "I didn't take anything. You cost this restaurant $24. Derek cut in. "So you'll pay it back. Out of your tips." Alex felt his jaw clench. "That's not fair," Sarah whispered. "What's not fair?" Derek snapped. "Is you babying freeloaders while ignoring real customers who actually spend money. This place isn't a charity, Sarah. And if you can't understand that, maybe you don't belong here." There was a long silence. Then Sarah spoke, her voice small but steady. "I understand." Derek didn't stop. "And since you seem to have time to hand out free meals, clearly you don't need as many shifts. You're off Tuesday and Thursday, and I'll review your weekend schedule." Alex closed his eyes, fighting the urge to storm into the room and end this farce right then. But he couldn't, not yet. He needed to see everything. He needed to know the full truth before acting. Inside the office, Sarah exhaled shakily. "Okay," she whispered. It was the kind of okay someone said when they didn't actually accept anything but simply had no choice. "Good," Derek said. "Now get back to work. And stop wasting food on people who don't matter." That last line cut through Alex like a blade. People who don't matter. He opened his eyes slowly and watched Sarah walk out, wiping at her eyes discreetly before forcing herself back into the rush. She returned to her tables with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, carrying plates with steady hands as if nothing was wrong. But the weight on her shoulders was unmistakable. When she passed Alex again, she paused and checked on him. "Everything okay? Need anything?" she asked, voice gentle, despite everything she had just endured. Alex swallowed hard. "I'm fine," he whispered. "Thank you." She smiled a tired, worn, heartbreaking smile and went back to work. In that moment, Alex felt something shift inside him. This wasn't about tip theft anymore. It wasn't about one bad manager or some missing cash. This was about dignity, humanity, his father's legacy, and the quiet strength of a woman who chose compassion, even when it cost her everything. Tonight, Alex wasn't just here to watch. Tonight, a reckoning had begun. The night rolled on. But something inside Alex no longer felt like quiet observation. Every minute he spent watching Sarah push through her shift with red eyes. A tight smile and the weight of Derek's punishment pressing on her pulled him deeper into a storm he didn't expect to feel. He had come here to confirm a suspicion, to investigate a financial problem. But now the problem had a face, a name, a story, and that changed everything. The restaurant around him buzzed with customers who had no idea that beneath the polished wood and hanging lanterns, a crisis was unfolding. Servers rushed past him, most avoiding Derek's gaze. Each one moving with the same anxious rhythm he'd noticed earlier: fast steps, shallow breaths, quiet obedience. He could see the pattern clearly now. This wasn't just a night of tension. This was the culture Derek had created, and Sarah? She had simply learned how to survive in it. Every time she passed by Alex, she still checked on him. "You doing okay? Need anything else? You're good. Just let me know." Her voice stayed warm, even after he overheard her arguing with the kitchen about an order she hadn't placed wrong something. Derek blamed her for anyway. Twice, she apologized to customers for delays that weren't her fault. Once she stopped to help a new server who looked like she was about to cry. Not once did Sarah put her own exhaustion first. That's when Alex realized something unsettling. She didn't know how to stop being kind, even when life punished her for it. And Derek knew it. That made her easy to target. The rehook of this story pulled tighter with every passing moment, wrapping around Alex like a rope. Because nothing about tonight was random. Derek's behavior, the tip discrepancies, the revolving door of staff, the fear that lingered in the air like humidity. He wasn't just skimming money, he was poisoning the entire heart of this restaurant. And Sarah, unknowingly, had become the symbol of everything Derek wanted to crush. A memory stirred in Alex's mind, his father standing behind this very bar years ago, telling him, A restaurant isn't built on plates and profits. It's built on people. Lose the people, and you lose everything. When had Alex forgotten that? He used to know every server's name. Used to stop by on Friday nights, roll up his sleeves, and help run food. He used to care about the stories behind the apron. Somewhere between success and expansion, he had drifted. He had trusted the wrong people. And because of that, this place had lost the heartbeat his father fought to protect. And yet, here was Sarah, carrying that heartbeat alone without ever knowing it. As the night began to wind down, Sarah handed Alex his receipt only for him to notice she'd quietly removed the dessert and discounted the fries. She'd already been punished for giving him a meal, and she was still trying to protect him from paying too much. "Thank you," he said softly. She shrugged. "Everyone has hard days. You shouldn't be punished for it." That line hit him harder than anything else that night. He had come here undercover to observe. Instead, she'd reminded him of who he was supposed to be. The rehook tightened. If one waitress could show this much humanity on her worst day, what excuse did he have for losing his way? As he stood up to leave, Alex knew the investigation wasn't over. It was just beginning. And when this story reached its next turning point, the consequences wouldn't be small. They would shake the entire foundation of Harborside. By the time Alex stepped out into the cold night air, his mind was no longer focused on spreadsheets or audits. Everything he had witnessed inside those walls was louder than any report. Sarah's quiet strength, Derek's calculated cruelty, the way the staff moved, like people trying not to get punished. The truth didn't need a board meeting. It needed action, but action had to be precise. When Alex got home, he didn't pour a drink or sit down to decompress. He went straight to his study, opened his laptop, and pulled up every internal system tied to the restaurant PA's logs, nightly cash summaries, clock-in data, tip allocations, and audit flags. Numbers never lied. And tonight, he was ready to listen. It didn't take long. The more he dug, the clearer the pattern became. Derek hadn't just skimmed a little here and there. He had built a full system of manipulation, adjusted totals, shift reductions for anyone who questioned him, lost receipts, cash log discrepancies that always favored him. Small amounts at a time, just enough that no single night triggered an alarm, but consistent enough to bleed the staff dry over months. Asterisk. A system constructed by someone who assumed no one at the top would ever look, but Alex was looking now, as he worked. His phone buzzed. It was a message from his head of HR. Asterisk, another anonymous complaint about Derek. Server says he cuts hours when they challenge tip reports. Asterisk, Alex's jaw tightened. He typed a quick reply. Asterisk, save it. I'm handling this personally. He's barely slept that night. The next morning, he returned to the restaurant in regular clothes, not undercover this time, but not announcing himself either. He arrived early enough that the morning prep team was just starting. He walked through the kitchen quietly, watching the cooks organize supplies. They looked tired, cautious, like people who expected to be blamed for something at any moment. Then he saw her, Sarah, leaning over a prep counter, scribbling something in tiny handwriting on a stack of old receipts. Her hands moved carefully, documenting times, totals, and dates like someone who had done it many times. Alex approached slowly. "Morning," he said gently. Asterisk, she looked up, startled recognizing him from the night before. "Oh, hi, you're back. Hope you slept better than I did." Asterisk, he smiled softly. "Can I ask, what are you writing?" Asterisk for a split second. She hesitated. Then, slowly, she slid the stack of receipts toward him. "Just keeping track of things," she said, "in case it ever matters." Asterisk. Asterisk, Alex picked up one of the notes. Her handwriting was tiny but neat. Date, table numbers. Reported totals. Actual payouts, discrepancies, times. Derek adjusted the logs. Nights, she suspected him skimming from coworkers. It was a pattern one she had traced carefully over 48 nights. Asterisk, you've been documenting this alone? Alex asked. Asterisk, she nodded. No one believes us when we speak up. But facts are facts. And maybe one day the right person will look at them. Her voice cracked at the end, and she cleared her throat quickly, pretending it hadn't. Alex swallowed. This helps more than you know. Desk. She smiled weakly and reached for the stack again. If you're curious, you can look. Just please don't let Derek see. I won't, Alex said softly. I promise. He left with those notes tucked carefully in his jacket. By that afternoon, he had matched her findings with POS data. Security footage, timestamps, bank deposit logs, and exit interviews from former servers. Every piece aligned. Was an airtight case strong enough to fire Derek, pursue legal action, and clean the entire system from the ground up, asterisk. But firing him in private wasn't enough. The staff deserved to see the truth. Sarah deserved to see justice delivered in the light, not in the shadows. Asterisk and Derek deserved to face the consequences where he had built his little kingdom right in front of the people he exploited. Asterisk Alex set the plan in. Motion for Monday. Asterisk, a mandatory staff. Meeting, closed doors. Full accountability, asterisk, the impact of Sarah's kindness was unfolding into something much bigger. Monday arrived with a tension that clung to the walls of Harborside-like humidity before a storm. The restaurant was closed to customers, chairs still upside down on tables, lights dimmed except over the main floor where every employee had gathered. Conversations were quiet, nervous. People whispered guesses new policies. Inspection? Another round of schedule cuts? Derek stood near the bar with a self-satisfied smirk. Assuming this meeting was about his excellent management performance, he looked almost proud, straightening his tie every few seconds like he expected applause. Asterisk. Had no idea what was coming. Asterisk. Alex stood behind the office door for a long moment, steadying himself. He wasn't nervous, he was angry. Angry at the months of stolen wages. Angry at the fear in his employees' eyes. Angry at himself for being absent long enough to let it happen. He took a deep breath, pushed the door open, and stepped out into the restaurant floor. The room went silent. Some employees recognized him immediately. Others whispered his name in shock. Derek's smile froze for a split second before stretching back into a polite grin. Asterisk, Mr. Brooks. Derek said loudly, his voice dripping with fake enthusiasm. What an honor. If I had known you were visiting, I would have asterisk. Alex raised a hand, shutting him up instantly. Asterisk, we'll get to you in a moment, he said calmly, his voice echoing off the wood and steel. Right now, I need everyone's attention. Asterisk, he walked into the center of the room. Every eye followed him. Asterisk, I've spent the last 72 hours reviewing data, footage, internal logs, and testimonies. He held up a thick folder. This restaurant, the heart of my father's legacy, has been suffering, and no one told me. Asterisk, a few employees looked down. Some nodded quietly. A few held back tears, asterisk Alex continued, but someone did speak up. Someone took notes. Someone documented everything, even when no one believed her. Sarah stiffened, eyes wide. Alex turned toward her. Sarah Mitchell, could you come forward? Asterisk Derek's head snapped toward, her confusion twisting into irritation. Sir, if this is about the meal she gave, that man asterisk, Alex cut him off again. We'll get to you, asterisk. Sarah stepped forward slowly, gripping her apron, unsure if she was walking toward praise or punishment. Asterisk Alex held up the stack of receipts she'd given him. These are your records. 48 nights, details, totals, discrepancies. You said, maybe one day the right person will look. He paused. I looked. A ripple moved through the staff. Hope, fear, curiosity. Then Alex turned, faced Derek, and the room shifted. Asterisk Derek Torres, he said. His voice no longer calm, but sharpened with authority. You've been stealing from your staff for over a year. Asterisk, the color drained from Derek's face. That's not true. These servers make mistakes, the system glitches, and asterisk Alex slammed the folder onto the bar top. The sound cracked like a gunshot. Enough? We have footage, logs, bank comparisons, testimonies, and Sarah's documentation. Your pattern is clear. You skimmed tips, falsified totals, cut shifts as punishment, and created a toxic environment. Asterisk murmurs erupted. A few employees gasped. One server whispered, "Finally, asterisk." Derek's voice shook. You can't fire me based on accusations. Desk. Asterisk, Alex stepped closer. Not firing you based on accusations. I'm firing you based on irrefutable evidence. Asterisk, he looked toward the hallway. Two security guards stepped forward. Derek turned pale. Wait, hold on. Let's talk about this asterisk. No, Alex said firmly. You don't get to negotiate the consequences of what you've done. Asterisk, as the guards escorted Derek toward the exit, he thrashed, pointing at the staff. You're all liars. Ingrates, you needed me. Asterisk. No one moved. No one defended him. No one cared. The doors closed behind him. Silence filled the room. Asterisk Sarah stood frozen. Still unsure what this meant for her, asterisk, Alex looked around at his staff and spoke with a steady voice that felt like the first breath of fresh air after months. Underwater asterisk, justice starts today. The climax had finally broken, and the story was far from over. Asterisk, the city slowly returned to its ordinary rhythm. But echoes of the chaos still pulsed beneath the surface. People whispered about what had happened, unsure whether to fear the future or feel hopeful for it. Yet for the first time in days, the air felt lighter, as if the storm that had threatened to tear everything apart had finally burned itself out. Our protagonist walked through the uneasy calm, feeling every step weighted with the memories of what had been lost and what had been saved. Despite the exhaustion, there was a sense of clarity, now an understanding that the world rarely offers easy battles and even rarer victories. As they moved past the once shattered streets, now filled with workers repairing broken signs and sweeping debris, they recognized faces that had once been strangers but had now become part of their journey. Each nod, each glance exchanged, carried unspoken gratitude. But beneath it all, a question lingered. Was this peace permanent, or only a pause before the next storm? That uncertainty rested heavily, but not painfully. It brought purpose, because surviving what they had faced didn't just leave scars that forged resolve. There was still much to rebuild, and many truths waiting to surface. But for now, they allowed themselves a moment to breathe, to take in the rare feeling of calm. They knew the road forward would not be gentle, but they were no longer the same person who began this journey. And as they stepped into the fading light of day, one quiet thought settled in their mind. Whatever comes next, they'll be ready. Night settled over the city with a softness it hadn't shown in a long time. Stretching shadows across streets that had witnessed too much in too little time. Our protagonists made their way toward the old overlook, the one place where the entire skyline could be seen at once, glowing like a fragile constellation stitched into the earth. Standing there, they felt the weight of every choice made, every danger confronted, every truth uncovered. The quiet didn't feel empty now. It felt earned. But as the wind shifted, carrying with it distant murmurs of conversation and distant sirens, they sensed that peace, while comforting, was also a reminder. It reminded them that endings are rarely final, and beginnings often hide in the spaces we mistake for rest. Their eyes scanned the glowing cityscape, noticing small movements down below, groups gathering near the square, officials patrolling with new urgency, rumors traveling faster than answers. Something had changed, not just within the city, but within its people. Fear was still there, but so was courage. Doubt still flickered, but so did determination. And somewhere in that balance, a new chapter was quietly forming. They tightened their grip on the railing, breathing in deeply, letting the cool night air settle their thoughts. The truth was simple. They'd come too far to step back now. Whatever was waiting beyond the horizon, whether danger, revelation, or unexpected consequence, they would face it without hesitation. Because after everything that had tested them, shaped them, and nearly broken them, they no longer feared the unknown. The unknown feared them. And with that realization, they pushed away from the overlook and walked back toward the heart of the city, ready for whatever tomorrow dared to bring by the time Alex stepped back into the harbor side the next morning. The building felt different, quieter, as if the walls themselves were waiting for what would come next. The Monday staff meeting was scheduled for noon. But he arrived hours early, walking the floor slowly, touching every table, every chair, every piece of the tavern his father had once polished by hand, for the first time in years. He wasn't thinking about investors or margins. He was thinking about people, about Sarah, about the team, about the 18 months he had allowed himself to become distant. As he stood near the bar. Jenna, the bartender, who'd been there for 7 years, walked in early too. She froze when she saw him not as the undercover stranger, but as the owner. "Morning," Alex said softly. Jenna hesitated, then approached, wiping her hands on a towel. "We all heard rumors? Something big was coming today." Alex nodded. "Something necessary?" She studied his face, then whispered, "Is it true? About Derek?" He didn't answer directly. Instead, he placed Sarah's collection of napkins and receipts on the counter, a mountain of tiny handwritten truths. Jenna's eyes widened. "You don't deserve this mess," she murmured. "No," Alex replied. "But you don't either." "None of you?" One by one. More employees drifted in, servers, bartenders, barbacks each, wearing the careful expression of people who wanted to hope but didn't trust hope anymore. Then Sarah walked in, hair tied back, uniform slightly wrinkled from her double shift the night before. Exhaustion in her eyes, but still that same calm dignity she always carried. She saw Alex, stopped, and her breath caught. "Is this today?" she whispered. Alex nodded. "Today," he said gently. "Everything changes for the rest of the week." Harborside buzzed with a kind of cautious excitement people feel when they're not sure if a storm has passed or if another one is forming on the horizon. Derek's firing had been so sudden, so absolute, that half the staff kept expecting him to burst back through the door, demanding his job. The other half walked around as if a heavy stone had finally been lifted off their backs. But beneath the relief, there was fallout, emotional, practical, deeply personal. On Tuesday morning, Sarah showed up early. Not because she had to, but because she didn't know how not to. For years, she had been the one who smoothed chaos, took extra tables, picked up other people's slack. Work wasn't just a job. It was survival. It was Liam's medication. It was rent. It was everything. Now Alex had given her a promotion, a raise, benefits that actually covered her son's insulin entirely. The weight crushing her chest for years was suddenly gone, but in its place was a strange heaviness she didn't expect. Responsibility. A team now looked at her as a leader. They asked her questions she never thought she'd have authority to answer. They watched how she spoke, how she solved problems, how she responded to stress. She wasn't just a server anymore. She was part of the backbone of the entire place. That shift came with pride, but also fear. Could she really be enough? On Wednesday afternoon, during a slow hour, Jenna leaned over the bar and said, "You know, your voice changed." Sarah blinked. "What do you mean? You sound..." "Sure, but you finally know your own worth." Sarah didn't know how to swallow that compliment. All she did was nod and say, "Maybe I'm learning." Meanwhile, Alex faced his own private fallout. He spent hours each night reviewing old policies his father had written, decades earlier documents he hadn't looked at since he was in his 20s. He remembered his father wiping tables with tired hands, saying, "People don't work for you, son. They work with you. Treat them like that." Alex had forgotten. Somewhere between investors, expansion plans, and spreadsheets. He had lost the heartbeat of the place. He wasn't just rebuilding trust with his staff. He was rebuilding trust with himself. That meant conversations, difficult ones, with the night crew who admitted they'd been scared to speak up, with the line cooks who revealed Derek had been manipulating schedules for months, with the bussers who whispered that they'd been threatened with fewer shifts if they ever questioned tip payouts, and every time Alex heard a new truth. He didn't get defensive or angry, he just listened and apologized and promised to fix it. On Thursday afternoon. While reviewing new transparency procedures with Sarah, he paused, rubbing the bridge of his nose. I should have been here, he admitted. Not just in the building. Actually here. Present? Aware. Sarah didn't sugarcoat it. Yeah, you should have. Asterisk then. After a beat, she added, but you're here now. And that counts. Friday night came with the first payday under the new system. Servers stared at their tip breakdowns like they were reading numbers from a different universe. Everything matched. Everything added up. No mysterious deductions. No missing hours. No adjustments. Real money, their money. Some cried quietly in the hallway. Others laughed like they hadn't laughed in months. Asterisk. Desk. And for the first time in a long time, Harborside didn't feel like a place where people endured. Shifts had felt like a place where people belonged. Asterisk. But the story wasn't over. Because what happened next, completely unexpected, would shake the entire restaurant again. The following Monday began like any. Other staff prepping stations, kitchen burners warming, soft music playing before the lunch rush. But just as Alex stepped out of his office, ready to start the day, a knock sounded at the front door. Asterisk. Not a customer, not a delivery. A federal investigator. Asterisk, he introduced himself calmly, showed his credentials, and said 5 words that froze the entire building. We're here about Derek Torres. Instantly, the room filled with tension. Cooks stopped chopping. Servers exchanged wide-eyed glances. The bar fell silent. The investigator explained that Derek's wage theft pattern extended far beyond Harborside. After his firing, 2 former employees filed official complaints and, when their statements matched Alex's documentation almost exactly, the Department of Labor opened a broader investigation. Derek had skimmed tips at 2 previous restaurants as well. He had a long history of manipulation, intimidation, and falsifying nightly reports. Sarah watched Alex carefully. She expected anger or frustration. But instead, his shoulders relaxed, as if something heavy finally loosened. Justice wasn't just being served inside the restaurant anymore. Asterisk, it was happening on the outside too. Investigator asked permission. To collect copies of the data, Alex had organized PA's records. Camera footage, timestamps, tip ledgers, and Sarah's handwritten notes. When Sarah handed over her bundle of napkins, he paused, looked at her, and said quietly, "These might be what closes the case for someone who had spent years feeling invisible." Those words sank deep as the investigators left. The team gathered in the dining area. No panic, no fear, just a collective breath of relief. The truth had risen. This time, it wasn't being buried. Alex looked around at the staff, his staff, and said, "We're not just fixing a restaurant anymore. We're setting a standard." And for the first time, everyone believed it.